I'm Don Matthews, studio head here at Ninja Theory, and I'm with a special guest who's going to introduce themselves.
Hello. Yeah, my name's Dan, and I'm character art director here at Ninja.
Amazing. So Dan is an incredible character artist, and I think we joined Ninja Theory at a similar kind of time, actually. So I joined in 2010.
Yeah.
Were you 2011?
Yeah, 2011.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Nice. So tell me, how did you get into character art, and how did you get into the industry? Because I don't know actually.
Yeah. I mean, when was it? 2002. So I actually studied graphic design because I'd seen something in a book when I was a kid, and it were Alan Lee. You know, who did the Tolkien stuff.
Yeah.
I remember him saying that he'd done like graphic design and stuff. So that seemed like a natural thing to follow. So I did that and really enjoyed it. And I wanted to be a graphic designer. So that's the umbrella of that's like massive. You can do illustration, you can do like IDs and to personal stationery, to everything you see in world's pretty much graphic designed. You know, road signs, everything. So there's a market. I thought I could sort of do that.
And were you inspired then as a kid by, like, were you always artistic as a kid?
Yeah. So I started drawing at like 4, and you just couldn't. That's the only thing I was good at. I was pretty shit at everything.
Yeah.
Other than art.
Yeah.
Yeah. They used to say at school, like, Dan's like, you know, he's so focused in art. Like, is he like this in every lesson? I'd be like, nah. He's absolutely terrible in everything, but he's like, you know, he really gets his head down in art, whereas everyone would just mess around in art.
Yeah, and you took
that
it
was
seriously.
a mess around lesson for everybody at school.
Yeah.
But for me, that was the focus lesson where I really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just carried on, like through college and with this focus on being a graphic designer. So, long story, but yeah, did multimedia, got introduced to 3D. Struggled with it a bit, hard to understand it, and like, you know, because I was going from that 2D to 3D, but found it kind of intriguing, and slowly got better at it over time. And then I think it was 2002. I saw a job at Sumo because I'm in Sheffield, so I'm from Sheffield.
Yeah.
And Sumo were in Sheffield, and I was like, there's a games company in Sheffield. So I was like, I need this job. And it wasn't for any sort of character. It was for a graphic artist, basically, UI, which I could, you know, that was my way in. So a guy called Darren gave me my first shot. I always respect him for that. You know,
gave you that foot in the door.
And he continued to give me a chance at a lot of things, actually. But he gave me that foot in the door, and started on doing conversion work. We did Outrun and stuff like that. And we did a lot of that, working on UI. And then I started doing bits of, you know, it's like when you get in, once you're in, it's like a kind of, we need some help on doing this stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't care what I was doing.
Yeah, if you've got the right
I
attitude,
just loved it.
Then you start getting other stuff thrown at you, and you start getting more opportunities, right?
Exactly. So we're making palm trees and stuff. And
yeah.
And I loved it as well.
And so this was on Outrun, right?
Yeah.
Outrun.
That was the first conversion one to Xbox and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that was just amazing. It was like, I learned a lot, you know.
So you were a fan of games, like?
Oh yeah.
You were a big gamer because you're a big you're a big Nintendo fan, right?
I love Nintendo.
Zelda.
Everyone knows that about me. I'm Breath of the Wild. I'm mad. I've put like 900 hours into that game. I've completed it maybe 3 times. I love it. You know, like the world, and you know, the characters are just so cool.
Yeah.
And I've always loved gaming.
Yeah.
Of all varieties since Mario Brothers.
So growing up
in 86.
So you kind of had this love of art, something you were good at and you could focus on, and you loved video games. So it was like when this opportunity came up at Sumo,
it's like
on your doorstep, it's like perfect.
Yeah, it's like I can't fail. Do you know what I mean? If I fail, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
It's like I need this. I actually worked a lot of jobs before that, not doing games, like doing catalogs, designing all sorts of different things. I did like tools. I worked in tooling, machining and tooling, and did like a catalogue for a variety of products and things like this.
Yeah.
So nothing to do with games whatsoever.
Yeah.
But slowly kept working. And actually, there were a bit of a recession at that time. The market for jobs was really bad in creative sector.
So how old were you then?
20, 22, 23.
So 22. So okay. So your first job in the industry then was when you were mid-20s.
2002,
Yeah.
That's when I first got in. And then it was just cool. I was just doing all sorts of stuff. And then there were a couple of guys there at Sumo. Chris, who I'm still good friends with now. He owns a scanning place up in Sheffield still, and I still go there for our stuff.
Yeah.
And Matt was another guy who now, I think he works at Apple in California. And he was like, those two guys were like big inspiration. And I think you need that. You know, you need those big inspirations that kind of push you forward. And I see what he was doing, and I'm like, wow, this is what I want to do. And then sort of Darren saw that in me, that I really wanted to do characters. So he gave me like a little test character, nothing like project dependent, but something that I could just tick along. Because we did a lot of like pitch work.
Yeah.
So I did this character, and it was probably crap. But at the time I had fun doing it, and it got me on that platform with those guys, with Chris and that, on character team.
Yeah.
And that's how I got in, into doing characters. And then we made Doctor Who. I made Karen Gillan for Doctor Who. Chris was making the Matt Smith Doctor model. And that were like so cool. Like for BBC, did a lot of work with like Charles Cecil, Broken Sword, stuff like that. And then after a lot of more conversion work, which were cool because you got to see how games were made. And sort of conversion work was good for that reason. Dissecting it, you know, reducing poly counts, getting it to run and optimize. You're sort of cutting your teeth on these games. And I did a lot of them.
Yeah.
We did a lot of games like that. I maybe did 9 games like this.
Yeah.
Before we actually made a game, like his own game.
So that work then was really taking an existing game, and bringing it to a new platform.
Yeah.
So your work as an artist really was preservation.
Yeah. As close as possible and running on a target platform, such as an Xbox.
Which I always think
PS2.
is the difference between what makes game artists or game art a harder job to something like film, because you've got to make something look incredible and run in frame.
Yeah.
It's got to run in real time, and that's the real challenge. That's the magic of it, I think. So it's interesting that your first start was actually that part of it.
Yeah.
Like, how can we take something, preserve it, and keep it in frame? And it sounds like that stayed with you as an experience, like as a mindset.
Yeah, I think it does. It sort of, I mean, I'm always blue sky when I'm doing stuff. I put some crazy stuff into a game or whatever that don't run, but you always have a view that you are going to bring it down.
Yeah.
You are going to get it to run, but you want that maximum impact first, quality, high as you can get, and then you'll bring it into line. But that's what I've always done. But yeah, they were great games, and we were working with like Sega, Konami, the big companies that I just looked up to. You know, like the games that they'd done. I'd played the games when I was a kid. So now looking at the models and kind of going, oh, that's how they did that. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, they've put that on another UV set because they need to tile it or something. It was like all this kind of stuff. And we got introduced to certain programs that stayed with me for a long time, like XSI, Softimage, because Japanese, they used that a lot, like Softimage 3D. It was a Japanese program that they used a lot. So because we were converting it, we had to use it because all assets were coming through in it. And I got to learn that, and it was just like felt special, you know, like a kind of, this program's like, it's the beast of the 3D world, you know. So like understanding it, getting under bonnet of it, I felt like I'd achieved something just learning it, you know.
Yeah.
Never mind making something in it.
So that's pretty cool, really, isn't it? That on your doorstep in Sheffield, you
Yeah.
get to go and join this company.
It was weird.
And they happen to be working for all these huge names.
Yeah.
That you're a fan of their games, and then you get to, like you say, like lift the bonnet on
Yeah.
on this stuff and see how it's all made.
Exactly, it's invaluable, really. And, you know, chances that I got through just like working there and working hard for company and just being into it, you know, like just loving it. Met some good people there.
Mm.
And it's just kind of, and then, you know, working just day and night, really, just, I've never really stopped doing that. But just like trying to improve, like all the time, just like daily, just trying to get better.
Do you think
what
that,
I'm doing?
Do you think that is like a key part of your success as an artist? Like, and what you've done in your career is you were given that opportunity at Sumo, and it sounds like you've really kind of grasped it with both hands.
Totally.
Yeah, because we talk about this quite a lot at the studio, right? In terms of junior people working with us, so much of it is in that mindset, is being, like you said, like hungry and willing to take stuff on. And also it's a responsibility for you as our character art director, and me in my role is that we give people these opportunities, because if you hadn't been given that chance to just have a go at a character for a pitch, then you probably wouldn't be sitting here now.
Probably be doing something else, you know, or found another way.
Yeah.
And maybe in a different
part of game development. Game art, yeah.
Yeah, you just never know, but like...
Yeah.
But I've always been sort of interested in characters and creating believability and realism in character design. So I think I'd always try and push in these areas to get better. That's what I started really, like, I don't know, if you like running a marathon, that's what I started running in. You know, like I dabbled in other things and learned the ropes, but then when I hit characters, it was like an obsession of trying to improve and try and dissect why and what makes characters interesting and more believable. And it's a science, as well as an art.
What do you think it is then? Like over the 20 years that you've been working in character art, like what's your findings? What do you think it is?
That's bloody hard.
Yeah.
It's hard work. It's very hard work. And actually, I should tell you, it's been really almost OCD, like really anal with detail, and all the makeup of a character, and that I think came from a course I did. It's by Charles Barg. It's a book called the Barg Course. It's a big book. And what you do is you print out plates from the book, put it on like a drawing board, and then the whole course is designed to just break down shape and shadow, lines, silhouette, and you follow it. So there's your final picture, and they used to do this in Flemish period, where they take a bust and light it, and then they copy it, size they call it. And I got this book and I followed it and I did all the plates from it.
Yeah.
Which I think has contributed to why I'm like I am now.
Yeah.
When it comes to characters, because there's a preciseness to following it. And if you fall away from it on the Barg course, you won't get the result.
Yeah.
Because it's imperative, the measuring and the shape and the shadow and everything is accurate. And the idea is you copy the plate, it should look like the book. Yeah. Because that's been ascertained by Charles Barg as being the most beautiful, aesthetically pleasing shape. And you copy it. Yeah. And you try and get close. And you improve and improve and improve and improve. Yeah. And I think I've took that to character art. Yeah. So now, when I'm looking at something, I'm constantly trying to improve it. Gotcha. All the time. It's that same mentality of trying to improve what I'm looking at, to bring it closer to something real. Yeah. And it's so precise, like the eye is such a precise thing, and when you see sculpts and work that don't quite read well, or it's not it's because it's not tight enough. It's usually like around the eye. When you look at it close up, it's so precise. And when you're learning, you're just like sculpting it in. Like, we'll just like draw that and like just flatten the curve of the eyelid to create that like lip. And it's like when you look at it, it's super precise. It's almost industrial design. And as soon as you get that, you start looking at shape differently. And likeness comes from it then, easier, because you're looking at it in depth. Do you see what I mean? It's like kind of before you were kind of winging it, or you were thinking it looked like that, but actually when you get under the skin of it and you look at it close, you'll realise it's a lot cleaner than you think.
Yeah.
So a lot more precise than you think.
So it's like when you look at something like an eye, it's designed. It's a thing that's purposefully designed in a way, and you can't make that up. It's shaped and formed in the way it is for a very specific purpose. And if you don't replicate that, then you're not doing it justice.
Yeah, and then your job becomes so much more complicated when you look at it like that, because you no longer just, oh, that's good enough, that'll be all right. Your job becomes infinitely more complicated. Yeah. The deeper you get into it, because you're just trying to represent it.
And is that so that
for everything?
So that's So what we're talking about there is the example of an eye. You're then extrapolating that to strands of hair, ear,
the ear, the shape and flow of it, the peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
they've all got a very specific curve. There's a thinness and a thickness, going to thin to thick. So light passes through it different. There's cartilage, which the light hits harder, and then where there's less, there's more light penetration. You can see blood through it, and it's balancing all these things. And it's like another world, really.
I get it. So when you're looking at a character, or when you're creating a character, whereas some people might be, looking at it a step back, what you're seeing is the composition of a human. Yeah. Really. Anatomically, and then of course you're layering the cloth on top of that, which gives you same level of detail.
Again, it's anatomy of cloth.
Yeah.
When you're doing cloth, it's got an anatomical flow to it.
Yeah.
As well. It's like it's all super complicated.
And why? I know the answer to this, right? But why do we care? Like, why do you why do you care about all that stuff? Why do you care about let's take the ear, for example, right? We have the ability now to realize those types of things, like light passing through a thinner part of the ear. Like, why do we care? Because you could just not do that, right? But why does it matter?
Well, it matters if you're trying to tell a story, and you're trying to tell a realistic story, like we are. Yeah. In Saga, we want to honor the performance and be as realistic in model as we can, so that when it comes through in performance, it's a believable story that we're trying to tell. It's a realism. It's a realistic game that we're trying to go for. So you've got to honor it with all these little subtleties, because then the player's going to connect so much stronger with cinema, like with the eyes and stuff. You're going to feel emotion coming through. If we didn't work hard to achieve this, then it might just land. We can do it as well. It's worth the effort. Yeah. To see it in the end and feel connected to character in a powerful way. That's what I push for.
Yeah. And I always think with it that it's almost like you're selling it to the subconscious, right? Because players are not sitting there looking and going, "Oh, it's done a good job of the translucency of the thin bit of the ear there."
Yeah.
But at a subconscious level, as humans that interact with other humans, you can your subconscious knows what feels realistic and doesn't. And then as soon as something is not right, you're taken out of the moment, you're taken out of the story. And actually where we want you is deep in the story.
Yeah.
So if at a subconscious level, that ear looks right, we keep you in it.
You're buying into it.
Yeah.
I'm in it, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it. I believe it.
Yeah. Feeling it is a good word, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's not a conscious thing. It's your subconscious that's, I always think of it as being that our job is to make it as easy as possible to allow our players to suspend their disbelief. Because then they're primed. Right. Then we can take them on that journey with the hope that we can move them in some way through that journey. So what you're doing with characters and your team are doing is you're making it as easy as possible for them to believe that what they're seeing there is a real person.
And what keeps you driving? Like, some of this stuff's really difficult to do, and it's not perfect. I'm not saying we have to work hard to get good shots and stuff like that look convincing. Some things are still a little bit behind, Some things are still difficult to do and hard to render, and even harder to make look realistic under lighting.
What bits do you think are most difficult now, and like what excites you about what's going to come over the next 5 years in character tech?
Well, I think it's sort of like the sort of whole machine learning thing of taking an actor or somebody, putting them in a game and getting their performance and being able to, we're honouring the physical aspects of the character, whereas the rig and the machine learning stuff's honouring the performance.
Yeah.
Which we never were able to do. In past, it was like you'd either have to do it by hand, by looking in a mirror, doing blend shapes and stuff to support the animation, what you're seeing. Now, it's able to honour that. I think in future, that's only going to get better and more advanced until it's just very, very accurate and nuanced. And that's exciting,
Yeah.
And taking that to the body as well, not just the face, but being able to just interact with character and have deformations working really well is something that's in progress and getting better. But in future, I could see it being just super, super nice.
Let's talk about deformation, right? Because I find deformation really interesting, right? And we talk about it a lot in the studio. But I think it's the kind of thing that people, fans of our games, fans in the industry, it's on one hand, it's a very minute thing, but on the other, it's a really big tool in us making characters believable. And it's a step, right? And so when we're talking about deformation, I'm going to try and define what I might, and I'll probably get this wrong. But deformation is the way that muscle stretches and compresses during movement.
It's a variety. Yeah, it's a variety of things. There's that. There's also the cloth as well, the movement of it.
Yeah.
But the muscle stuff, that's something that's sort of slowly coming into games now, like the sort of muscle deformations that they've had in film for a while. Being able to put a muscle rig in something and have it have proper skin sliding and bony landmark. It'll find bony landmarks and stuff like this, which just gives you a really nice elbow.
So a bony landmark is like your elbow, right?
Yeah, so when you bend your arm, you can see the sort of elbow popping out, and
so it's basically
sharpness.
So if you sit there and look at your arm,
yeah,
as you bend your elbow, there's an awful lot of
there's a lot of
movement squeezing, stretching going on with the skin and the muscle around there.
A lot of compression in the forearm.
So when we're talking about deformation, really we're talking about how do we simulate all of that detail feeding back into, well, why would we bother? We would bother because when you see, let's take Senua pick up a sword out of the ground, just as an example, and you see that muscle and that skin all move correctly, you're there.
Yeah.
You're in it. You're not subconsciously going, oh, that looks like a couple of sausages tied together,
Which is what it can look like.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need shapes that are driving in the rig, shapes that are going to compress and do that.
Yeah.
But then there's the muscle system, which gives you a lot of that stuff, for free, because it's like muscle. It's actually got an underlying structure.
Yeah.
Under mesh, that's doing it.
So
that's very relatively new. That.
So in that sense, when you're building a character now, you're almost, is it too much of a stretch to say you're starting to build characters like a human?
Yeah, I mean, Yasha's just put muscles into Senua. He's playing with that.
Yeah.
And it's looking at how it affects the skin and stuff.
Yeah. So if you cut open our digital, if you're performing an autopsy on our digital Senua, you would find muscles within her.
Well, we don't run that.
Yeah.
It's just the thing under the bonnet, if you like. There's a thing under the bonnet driving the surface. But obviously we don't run that in game.
Yeah.
But if you were to look at it in Maya, for example, and do it, then you'd see like the muscles underneath.
Yeah.
Because they're contributing to what's happening on the surface.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's loads of stuff.
Yeah.
And the hands and whatnot as well. There's another big one.
Yeah. And in a game like Hellblade, you spend a lot of time looking at Senua and looking at Senua's back. That's right, as a third person game. So
exactly.
All of that interaction between skin, muscle, cloth,
it's got to come through.
Decoration and all of that, it needs to be absolutely spot on for you to, like you said, for players to be sunk into that journey.
And what I'm really interested in as well, there's the deformation stuff, but I'm interested in the tension as well. We just did a few, like when we were scanning last week, we did some stuff with just everything tensing up. Because you can have the muscle deformations and stuff, but I'm really interested in tension at muscles and firing of the muscles. Because I think that we can do deformations, and we can have these muscle systems, but take it one step again and have the sort of the tension of muscles is really interesting, because it engages you with character again. You can feel their moment, if they're scared, if they're afraid, if they're tense, and if we can get that across in the rig, then we've got another level of realism.
Got it. So it's kind of those extreme, almost like fight or flight scenarios where you'd have muscle really tense up. I suppose around the neck as well, those kind of things, right?
Yeah, if we've got a cutscene and you see the neck, Senua's screaming and you see all neck pull just firing off, and then you can see the pop of the clavicle when her arms come forward to make a move, but then you can see sort of the twist of the arm and it tensing before she goes into a sword strike. If you get this stuff in there, that's just amazing. That's what will make it just incredible.
It's almost like it's almost like you're directing a scene of the body. The way you just described that.
Moving with it.
It's and now let's pop the clavicle and but it's.
Well, we did that on the demo. When we did the troll, we had all this stuff and all the ingredients were there, but then we went in with Rick and Balash and sort of said, I'm not happy with that forearm. And then Rick was like, okay, I've got some time, I'll hit it, and he hit it. And it's just taking that, it was bulging too much on the forearm. And I just weren't happy with the shape of it. it's all about the shape and the silhouette, and the realism wasn't there. It made it look old gem.
Yeah.
And I know we could make an adjustment on it. So it's like, can we just adjust that, please?
Yeah.
So working with these guys and spotting things and working together is a massive, like, it's just like, yeah, you need that, because obviously, you know, you've got Tekanim and cinematics who you need to work closely with, you know, from character as well, you know, like when you're doing these things, to try and just iron out all the little bits that like kind of annoy you want to fix.
Yes.
You don't always fix them all, but if you can fix the big ones first,
you
know, get them big ones out of the way, you start honing in on this like something very cool and real.
Yeah. And lighting as well, right? I mean, lighting's such a huge part of the equation.
Yeah.
I mean, for everything, right? But I know particularly with characters.
Yes, very much.
The lighting makes all the difference, and to be able to bring through that detail. I think the demo that you're talking about, the Game Awards demo, that troll is what I don't know, 30, 40 foot tall.
He's what were 16 meters, something like that.
16 meters tall. So
something like that.
I know when we created that, we were very conscious of big guy going to take up a lot of screen space.
Yes.
You know, we need to make sure this stuff looks really, really great, and you know, it really, really came together in the end. But I think it's a good example of the things you're talking about in terms of deformation and muscle wobble and all those kind of things. If you look closely at that piece, you'll see all of those elements in there. But the cool thing is that you don't need to look close. It feels right because those details are there.
I mean, we were using Ziva muscle system on that. And if you switch that off, and that's the thing that's doing the muscle, driving the muscles underneath through the rig, making the skin affect everything. And we tweaking skin actually quite a lot on that to get the right balance of because it's wet skin, so we want it to be quite, you know, it don't want to look rubbery, but it's got to be quite flexible and a bit slough. You know, when skin sloughs with water, it gets like sluffy. And dialing that in was a bit of a trial and error. But if you switch that off and play that scene, you'll see that what it's doing. And it's a lot. Like it's fixing a lot of the, like we say, elbows, wrists, pronation of the arm, everything. It's doing that. You know, because we had a lot of that. Like super wide shots, lateral raises.
Yeah.
Because he was using his arms to pull himself
quite
out
extreme
along floor
arm movements. Yeah,
and without that rig, that muscle rig and all that stuff going on, it's sort of you see it just looks like a very basic game rig without it. So it was a great thing to use on that piece, and sort of we learned a lot.
And I think it pays off. People that I've spoken to about that piece really like the human element and the human moment between Senua and the troll at the end of the piece. And it's a combination of a lot of different things, but I think it's a good example of all of these things. You can take people on that journey, and then when you want to deliver people an emotive moment, you've got a really good chance of it landing well, because it feels real, feels believable.
Yeah, totally. I think, and that's what you want to do. You know, it's like. But that were a huge, like you said, with lighting as well. That was, you know, Ballas did a great job of lighting that. But there was a lot of stuff that we had to be very specific with, you know, with lights, which are a lot better now in UE5. You know, the lighting is it's quite nice. It's a lot more accurate. So I think, you know, we could do certain things. Direction of lights and stuff like that, sort of chamfering through eye. Things like this. It's just tweaking all the time until you've got it just right.
One thing you said to me once that I really liked was that you strive for a character model. If you looked at just a static character model, it can tell a story. You can look at that character, and you can imagine where they've been, who they are, and I love that. Like, tell me about we've talked about the believability and how real you can make characters. Like, tell me about how you can then, or the ingredients to then building that story of that character on top of that.
Yeah, you need the, well, first you need the story. Once you've got that, you can figure out, sort of like begin to work on their journey through their timeline, if you like. So once you've got start and end, you can work out like what they're wearing and stuff like that. So you, in games, there's a tendency to be a bit too, depending on what game it is, but like for something that we're trying to do, it's super grounded, realistic. It's about the function of what that character needs at that time. What they're wearing will be what they're wearing. You know, it's like, we can glam it up too much sometimes, and it's like, oh, they're wearing what they'd be wearing in the homestead, and then you start to tell the story through that. So you start with something like they're just wearing a basic tunic and pants or whatever, some basic shoes, and then depending on what happens to them in the story, you can start building it up. So we've been working on a character recently that, you know, they have a moment where there's like a scuffle and, you know, the neck piece gets ripped, and that's like little moments in their story that we then put into the model. They might get punched, or they might be in a battle or something like this. They might get an eye missing, I don't know, anything. But it's tying all these little bits in that build the story into character. And that's when you can start to tell. Simple things like if they, I don't know, crawling through dirt, they had a scene where they were crawling through dirt, we'll put all the blood and dirt under the fingernails and stuff. And it's little things, but like it all adds up to something that then feels like, we thought about it.
Yeah, it could be a person.
Yeah, we thought about all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's these little things that make the character what tells the story of the character. Yeah, I like that. Storytelling, little elements that you put into it.
I'm glad you like it. You said it. So. I like it too.
I know, but I do love it. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes those things happen very ad hoc. You know, we can be doing makeup or something, and then you'll just be doing makeup, because we do a lot of makeup now in real world, before scan, so we'll do a lot of makeup. Now we're doing some stuff recently, and that was very ad hoc, but just kind of like, do you know, what if we just change this, or if we just try that, and then you just like, and then it's just tied into character. It's almost like concepting in the flesh.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not just doing a concept and all ideas are coming right then and there. Sometimes the ideas are only coming when you've got that person stood in front of you and you're working on them. And then you're like, that's cool. And then you try it. And sometimes it don't work, sometimes it works. But that happens a lot, I find. I don't know if it's just the way I work, but I find that happens quite a bit. So like that character becomes real while you're working on them.
So like
and makeup.
An example of that would be with Senua, right?
Yeah.
Like with
we did. Yeah.
With the Game Awards piece. Because it's an actual costume. It's Melina, our actress who plays Senua. So then you apply that makeup. And in that moment, you then have that artistic freedom to play with that makeup.
How it's going to be, yeah. I mean, we never... It's like for some shots we were doing the black, you know, running down the arms and stuff, and you never get... That's a one shot, you know. And sometimes you'll do it again, and it'll be like, wow, that looks better than last time. You know what I mean? It's like kind of like, it's always like a thing that's completely unique.
Yeah.
When you do it. But that's the beauty of it, you know. It's just like, if you get it, you get it.
But that's a really interesting kind of like evolution within character art. So what you're doing now is your canvas, if you like, is a person.
It's a person.
And an actual costume, an actual makeup. It's not digital. It's creating it in real life, and then having the faith in the pipeline that you can then recreate that faithfully in engine and ultimately in the game, right?
Well, I think that's how things have changed a lot as well. You know, like Ninja anyway, the concepting. I would not limit it anymore to concepting just on a piece of paper, and you're in Photoshop or whatever. You just do a concept. I think there's so many realms to concepting now. At least at Ninja there is.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm concepting on the person in the flesh.
Yeah.
I'm concepting with Jess, our costume designer, on the mannequin. Life concepting with the fabrics.
Yeah.
And then we're putting those things together. Sometimes like with the actor and the costume, and concepting that again. And then sometimes with the makeup again, just to try it. So concepting is like this very sort of vague thing now. It's like, a lot of the stuff we do is live concepting, and I think it's because it gets us closer to a final thing. We still do the sketches and stuff, but they're more functional. They're more just to figure out an idea, like, could that sort of work? Do they have a jerkin on and then a belt over the top? And we might just sketch to sort of figure that out. But actually, when you start honing in on it, it's like sometimes it's just like Jess will send me pictures of some fabrics, and I'll say, lay them on mannequin and take me a photograph. She'll do that, and then I'll bring that photograph and put the actor's head on it, fill in the bits in between, and then you're understanding what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Closer and faster.
Yeah.
So I think it has changed a little bit for us anyway. I don't know if there's bound to be other people doing that as well.
Yeah.
But it feels more like a film workflow, I think.
Yeah.
I see that done more in film than games. It depends what you're making.
So is it true to say then that if you can look at let's take the makeup, right? If you can look at Senua's makeup on Mel in real life in some good lighting, and you go, that's the look, that's the feel that I'm going for, you then know that the pipelines that we have in place will get that feeling in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So the artistic or the pure creative end of it can actually be, we talk about ground truth a lot, right? Ground truth, we have a focus on ground truth, taking a real world item or place or whatever it might be, and trying to replicate that in engine and in the game. And it's exactly the same character, but your ground truth is it's cloth, it's costume, it's a person, it's makeup on a person.
Yeah, that's why we always scan as well in costume. We always take a costume scan with the person in the costume. It's never just done in Marvelous Designer on an A pose like mesh. We do that as well, but like we need that ground truth. We need that scan with the person in it fully scanned, because clothes, how they sit on the body, is really different in CGI. How it's done and how it feels. You need that reference point, so it feels like there's a body under there.
Got it. Yeah.
I think sometimes when you see things that are kind of done just in pure digital from start to scratch, there's no realism and no nothing, like say ground truth brought in, no reference point, it can feel a bit floaty and lack the weight of that cloth. Like you can do it in Marvelous. There's a program called Marvelous Designer, and it has densities and weights of cloth. So what you'll start with is like a heavy cotton, say. You put it in, and then you'll reference the scan and have a look at it. And you might have to tweak it a bit, to get that feeling. Because a cloth weight is almost, you can feel it through the folds. So if it's a thin cloth, it's going to have a lot of crinkle, a lot of fold.
Yeah.
If it's a heavier cloth, it'll be a fatter, wider, softer fold.
Yeah.
So getting the weight right through the cloth.
Got it.
It's never correct to start with. You've got to go in then and actually go, a little bit tight them folds, I think. And then sometimes you can make the error of over sculpting it when you get it in ZBrush, which is the program we use for sculpting.
Yeah.
You're taking that asset that's been simulated, like with a heavy cotton weight, but then if you overwork it, you introduce a tighter cloth and it don't feel real anymore. So you've got to be very mindful of these
got it.
weights and then the dynamics of it coming in for it to feel right. I think sometimes you can overwork things a little bit.
That's really interesting. I haven't actually thought of that before. Like sitting here now, like you've got a t-shirt on that's quite thin. Yeah. And I can see those wrinkles, like, and you're right. And I've got this like
yours is soft,
heavier jumper on, and
fatter folds,
and you're right. If you had these like bigger folds on that t-shirt, wouldn't
look right. Yeah, and it won't feel right. It won't move right either.
No.
So it's like a lot of this stuff. You need that ground truth so that you can actually, like we had it with leathers, a lot of leathers, because obviously we're doing leather work. Actually seeing the leather thickness in real life from a scan, and how it's made up, and how it looks, and how edges feel, and how you do it as an artist. If you didn't have that ref, you'd probably make it thinner than it is.
Yeah.
Depending on, there's a perception. So you constantly look at it and go, actually, that is thicker than I thought.
Yeah.
That is actually thicker. So having that is valuable. Bringing it in and going, and actually it folds are softer as well. And you wouldn't think it.
Yeah. So you're leaving less up to the imagination, and you can actually look at a piece of leather on an actor and say, well, this is how it actually sits.
Yeah. And the breakdown as well is another thing. Like actually breaking stuff down, how you do it in texturing. In Substance Painter, you've got a tool for like texturing. But actually breaking it down in real life and looking at it, then it becomes difficult. Because then you're going, how do I get that?
Yeah.
And we don't have all the answers. These are constant challenges.
So are you going down to a level of, let's take your t-shirt, right? So if you were creating that, would you go down to the level of like the pattern of the weave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is super minute, isn't it? That is like,
so you'd go down
it's
to
got
the
a warp and weft.
pattern of the weave.
Yeah.
You'd create that.
Super fine.
And a simulation based on that weave so that it would sit
correctly. This has got a certain amount of elasticity in it as well.
Yeah.
That gets simulated as well, and that's and in fact that's really difficult to manage in CG. Yeah. Elasticity go crazy, like when it starts moving, it can be a bit weird. But it's sort of creating the warp and weft pattern of it, and getting a micro detail of it, and then layering all this other stuff on top. Fibers, the shader stuff on how it reflects light or not. The fuzziness, the softness of it all. Yeah.
So there's as much intricacy in cloth as there is in the anatomy.
Actually, cloth's a really, really always has been as well, a really tricky thing in CG to get looking good. And I think with Saga, we're trying to tackle cloth and do good cloth, because there's a lot of that. It's sort of, if we were to just do like total leather, we could do that, and but it's, we want to tell a story which is has got more cloth in it.
Yeah.
Because it's bits that she's found and stuff like that, and then build that character up through cloth. And in Iceland it's freezing, so we need
You need layers of cloth.
you need layers for like storms and things.
Yeah.
And those cloth elements really add dynamics and power to the game. If there's a wind and you've got cloth like, you feel it, and it's moving around. If it's moving around and it's too loose or light on a heavier thing, it's going to look wrong.
Yeah.
So that's got to be nailed. You've got to get that stuff right if you're going to do it.
So it's easier for us to not do these things.
Yeah.
But we're committed to doing these things because it's telling the story we want to tell, right?
It's gonna, in our case, it's the cloth fabrics part of the story of what we're trying to do. I think, in a big way.
Yeah. So I want to change subject a little bit and talk a little bit about, just to kind of close out the conversation, like I think you're incredibly well respected within the character art world, and I think you're pretty your name is out there and someone that people certainly look up to. What advice can you give to people out there who are maybe just starting their career in character art, or they are maybe like you, someone who is at school, at college, and art is their thing, and they'd love to get into games and be a character artist and get their teeth into some of the things that you've talked about? Like what advice can you give them?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a really tricky one. It's nice of you to say about respected as well. I just set out on a journey, I never look at myself like that. I'm a bit shy with this stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's what makes part of what makes you great, Dan.
But I just trying, to help people as well. I've always tried to help others. I don't feel like any information is a secret. I get a lot of people asking me loads of stuff weekly on advice and all that, and what they should look at and all that kind of thing. And I always sort of kind of say the same thing. I just I think there's a lot of courses out there that you can look at now. There's lots of game courses, but there's lots of online good courses as well, for learning this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think there's something underneath it all, because you can learn the technical stuff. If you're a student or whatever, you can go out, you can learn. Now we've got Blender, it's a free program. You can go and learn 3D and all that stuff, but it's applying it. And I think a lot of people learn how to use their hands, but they don't learn how to use their eyes. They don't train their eyes. And I think the biggest bit of advice I could give somebody is to use your eyes more and just sit back. Don't be rushing to learn something, the skill of it. Yes, there's a certain amount of draftsmanship level that you've got to get to do your job. But the more important thing is using the eyes for the aesthetics. Because if you've got a good eye for aesthetics, what's appealing, what makes something appealing, that is what's going to take you a lot further than just the technical, I can make a character. A lot of people can make a character, and it's getting easier to do so.
Yeah.
But what I've found day to day in my career is that not a lot of people know what to do to make the character amazing, like to really push it forward, to take it another level above, like to go a bit further. That's what's important. And I think a lot of that comes from just looking at things. And it sounds too basic, doesn't it? It sounds
but maybe
too
it's the point
stupid.
that people miss.
It sounds like, oh, what do you mean? Just look at that. But it's like looking at stuff, absorbing things, watching a lot of films, looking at where the appeal is. Why is that cool? Why does that feel good? And then study that.
Yeah.
As well as this, like with the hand. Because once you can learn how to take the appeal and get the appeal into the art, then you've cracked it.
Got it.
and
Yeah.
you'll go far. You'll
So
do well.
watch film. Look at art. Look at sculpture.
Totally. Like, when we're referencing stuff in this studio, like with character team, I'm never looking at games and stuff. I'm always referencing artwork, like artists that I found, like Francis Bacon, Sarah Sitkin, amazing. Like, just find these people who are just like, as the aesthetic, what you're looking for in what you're trying to put into the game, and then dissect it and figure it out. People like Disney, they're so good at doing that, and we learned a lot from them guys when we were working with them.
Yeah.
The appeal, what makes a character appealing, certain lines, Sit back, watch a lot of film, get engrossed in it, and then find what you love, and then do it. Like, make the thing that you love, because you'll do it. If you've got enough love for it, you'll do it. If you you need to find that thing that you really want to make, and then just make it. Don't wait for anything either. Just make it.
Yeah.
And move on. It might not be great. You might do it and you'd be like, I've got loads of work that's just shit. It's just put in bin sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, it served a purpose, and I think that's something that we all forget.
Yeah.
That we're too concentrating on the end goal. I've got to get there. But actually, look at where you've come. Look at
the mistakes you've made.
It's all informed where you are.
Yeah.
Where you were, with that piece, whatever it may be. So all the mistakes, they need to happen. And we're going through that, as professionals, like, doing this. We're not...
Yeah.
We ain't got the answers. Like, we're going through that right now. Like, we're going through many, 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 many sculpts. You're not going to do one, and that's the thing. You're going to do one, you're going to learn something about it, and then you're going to go move on again, and you learn a bit more, and a bit more, and a bit more. You might do 20. And then you go, something's forming.
Yeah.
Something's beginning to happen, and then you keep going, and it's hard work. It's hard to keep going. That's why you need the love for it. So
Yeah.
I love horror, for example.
Yeah.
So I'll always, like, if I haven't done any personal work for a bit because we're so busy on Saga, but when I'm doing personal work, it's always something like I don't know, I want to make Reagan from The Exorcist. I've still got my eye on that. I want to do that one. The love for it will take me through.
Yeah.
And it'll get me through all the hurdles that I'll no doubt hit. With the eyes and the hair and the scars, and make it look and actually then honouring the look of it, making it look like a prosthetic, because it's an old film, right? So it's not going to look great. It's going to look a bit rubbery.
Yeah.
So like all this kind of like little touches.
Yeah.
You want to honour it, but the love for it will take me through.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
so
brilliant.
use your eyes. Yeah. Use
your eyes.
Get good at looking for aesthetics. Understand aesthetics. What makes something beautiful? What makes something disgusting? What makes something just appealing to look at? Look at shape. Look at sculpture. Look at statues. These are some of the best examples, statues, because they were designed for that.
Yeah.
They were designed to look appealing and aesthetically beautiful from every angle. The Barg. That's what that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
To create appeal. And then if you can translate that into a game or a film, then you've got something special. And I always say, that part of art history thing, but like games, sometimes polygons and all that stuff, it's seen as a bit of a commodity, just
a bit throwaway.
I don't like that. I like to think of it's an artisan, using polygons as a craft. It's not throwaway. So I want to be super protective, like careful. It's worth something.
Yeah.
And I sort of feel like it. Yeah, we can do it. It's so like free and easy or whatever. You can make stuff and all that, but it's not. I think actually, it's part of our art history at world that we're living in. And games and film is part of that. I always say if Michelangelo were alive, he'd be making games.
Yeah.
Or film. With his
It's
talents.
true. Yeah.
It's part of that. It's part of human.
Yes.
evolution as artists and stuff, and
Yeah.
creatives, to tell stories and whatnot. So yeah, it's not a throwaway. It's a craft, and one, you know, we should care for.
So I hope you found that conversation with Dan, our character art director, as interesting as I certainly did. And we'll be back soon with more.